Have you ever opened a streaming app and felt like time was running out? Like if you don't click right now, something rare is about to vanish? That's exactly what's happening on Tubi. 15 classic films, some forgotten, some misunderstood, some flat out legendary, are quietly sitting there. And they won't be for long. Number 15, The Hill, 1965. This is one of those films that doesn't announce itself as important. It doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. But once it gets its grip on you, it never lets go. The Hill is a prison drama set inside a brutal British military stockade during World War II, and it's one of the most physically exhausting films ever made, in the best way possible. Sean Connery gives what many consider the finest performance of his career, stripped of charm, stripped of heroics, reduced to sweat, pain, and quiet defiance. The punishment isn't just emotional, it's physical. Men are forced to climb an artificial hill again and again under a merciless sun, collapsing, vomiting, breaking down, and the camera never looks away. What makes The Hill so powerful is its refusal to turn suffering into spectacle. This isn't about glory or victory, it's about power. Who has it? Who abuses it, and how systems crush people not through chaos, but through routine. Orders, procedures, rules. The black and white cinematography turns heat into something you can almost feel through the screen. You'll notice the silence, long stretches without music, just breath, boots, wind, and the sound of men breaking. It feels less like a movie and more like an endurance test the audience is forced to share. This is not a watch while scrolling film. It demands attention. And that's exactly why it slips through the cracks of modern streaming. If The Hill disappears, it may be a long time before you stumble across it again. This is your warning. Number 14, Seconds, 1966. Few films capture existential terror the way Seconds does. Not monsters, not killers, but the terror of waking up one day and realizing your life doesn't belong to you anymore. Rock Hudson plays against type as a man offered the chance to completely erase his identity and start over as someone younger, freer, more successful. New face, new name, new life. It sounds like a dream, until it very quickly becomes a nightmare. Director John Frankenheimer shoots this film like reality itself is unstable. Warped lenses, disorienting angles, faces stretching and bending at the edges of the frame. You're never allowed to feel comfortable, because the character never is. Even moments that should feel joyful, wine-soaked parties, freedom, escape, feel hollow and performative. What makes Seconds hit even harder today is how modern it feels. Reinvention culture, escaping your past, becoming the best version of yourself. This movie exposes the lie at the center of all of that. You can change your face, your job, your address, but you can't outrun who you are. The final act is devastating, not shocking, not flashy, just deeply, quietly tragic. It's the kind of ending that leaves you staring at the screen after the credits roll, trying to shake off the feeling that something inside you has been disturbed. Seconds was misunderstood when it was released. Too dark, too strange, too honest. Which is exactly why it still matters, and why it never stays on streaming platforms for long. When this one leaves, it leaves a hole. Number 13, Night of the Hunter, 1955. There are villains. And then, there is this villain. Robert Mitchum's Preacher is one of the most chilling characters ever put on film. Not because he shouts, but because he whispers. He smiles. He sings hymns. He believes, truly believes, that he is chosen to do terrible things. Night of the Hunter plays like a dark fairy tale. Children on the run, a predator in religious clothing, shadows stretching across walls, animals watching silently from the darkness. It feels dreamlike, almost unreal, yet every emotion lands with brutal clarity. The visual style is unforgettable. Stark black and white compositions that look like something pulled straight from a nightmare. Houses framed like traps, rivers that feel endless, night skies that seem to swallow everything beneath them. This is a film where the imagery tells the story as much as the dialogue. And then there's the theme, good versus evil. Not as a metaphor, but as a lived experience. Innocence doesn't win through strength. It survives through endurance, through kindness, through refusing to become what's hunting you. This film failed on release. Audiences didn't know what to make of it. It was too strange, too stylized, too uncomfortable. Today, it's widely considered one of the greatest American films ever made, and yet it still vanishes from streaming like it's ashamed of its own brilliance. If Night of the Hunter disappears from Tubi, don't assume it'll be easy to find again. Movies this bold never are. Number 12, Bad Day at Black Rock, 1955. This is one of the tightest, most quietly terrifying films Hollywood ever produced. Bad Day at Black Rock doesn't rely on gunfights or spectacle. It relies on tension so thick you can feel it tightening around your chest. Spencer Tracy arrives in a desert town where something is deeply wrong. People are polite, but evasive, friendly, but hostile underneath. Questions are answered sideways, doors close quickly, and every conversation feels like it's circling a secret no one wants exposed. The brilliance of this film is how small it keeps everything. One town, one train stop, one mystery, and yet the implications are enormous. This is a story about guilt, complicity, and what happens when an entire community decides silence is easier than truth. Robert Ryan delivers a performance that simmers with barely restrained violence. You're never quite sure when things will explode, which makes every pause feel dangerous. The widescreen desert cinematography turns empty space into something suffocating. There's nowhere to hide, yet everyone is hiding. What really makes Bad Day at Black Rock hit hard is its subject matter. Beneath the thriller surface is a confrontation with American shame, specifically racism, cowardice, and moral failure in the years following World War II. And it refuses to soften the blow. At just over 80 minutes, the film wastes nothing. No filler, no distractions. Every scene tightens the screws just a little more. When the truth finally comes out, it doesn't feel triumphant. It feels necessary. This is the kind of movie that slips off streaming services without warning because it's too sharp, too direct, and too uncomfortable. If it vanishes, most people won't even realize what they missed. Number 11, The Taking of Pelham. 123, 1974. Before glossy remakes and digital chaos, there was this lean, mean, brutally efficient thriller, and it still hasn't been topped. The Taking of Pelham 123 turns a New York subway hijacking into a masterclass in tension. No flashy editing, no sentimental backstories, just professionals doing their jobs under extreme pressure, trying to outthink criminals who are just as methodical. Walter Matthau is perfect as the weary transit cop forced into a battle of wits with criminals who believe they've planned for everything. Robert Shaw's villain isn't loud or theatrical. He's cold, precise, and terrifyingly calm. Every word feels measured. Every threat feels real. What makes this film timeless is its realism. The city feels lived in, dirty, loud, bureaucratic. Mistakes happen. Systems slow things down. People argue over procedure while lives hang in the balance. It all feels frighteningly plausible. The pacing is relentless. Once the hijacking begins, the movie never lets you breathe. The ticking clock isn't just a plot device, it's a constant presence. And the score, with its funky, off-kilter rhythms, adds an edge that keeps you on alert. There's also a dry, almost cruel sense of humor running through the film. Not jokes, observations. The kind that make you smirk, even as tension spikes. It's a reminder that life keeps moving, even during crises. This is one of those movies that streaming platforms rotate in quietly and pull just as quietly. If it leaves, it won't be announced. It'll just be gone. Number 10, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956. This is paranoia cinema at its purest. Invasion of the Body Snatchers taps into a fear that never goes away. The idea that the people around you are no longer themselves, and that you might be next, not killed, replaced. The genius of this film is how ordinary everything looks. Small-town America, friendly neighbors, familiar routines, and then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, something starts to feel off. Emotions flatten, reactions dull. Love disappears. There are no flashy effects. No elaborate explanations. Just the creeping realization that humanity itself is slipping away, one person at a time. The horror comes from recognition, not surprise. What makes this version so powerful is its restraint. The alien threat is never glamorized. It's efficient, quiet, logical, and that makes it far more disturbing than later, louder interpretations. This isn't an invasion through violence, it's an invasion through apathy. The film has been read as an allegory for everything from Cold War paranoia to social conformity, and that flexibility is why it still works. You can project modern fears onto it effortlessly. The message adapts because the fear is eternal. The final moments are iconic for a reason. Desperation, isolation, the scream that says everything words can't. It lingers long after the screen goes dark. This is one of those classics that seems permanent until it isn't. When Body Snatchers disappears from Tubi, it'll likely take its sense of quiet dread with it. Number 9. Sorcerer, 1977. This is one of the most misunderstood masterpieces of the 70s, and one of the most physically punishing movies ever made. Sorcerer isn't about magic, it's about men with no way out. 4 criminals, 4 continents, 4 lives already destroyed before the film even truly begins. Their only chance at redemption is a suicide mission, transporting unstable explosives through unforgiving jungle terrain where one wrong move means instant death. William Friedkin directs this like the world itself is hostile. The jungle doesn't care. The roads aren't roads, they're traps. Mud, rain, rust, and decay swallow everything. Trucks groan like dying animals. Every bump feels lethal. The famous bridge sequence alone is enough to qualify this as an all-time great, not because of spectacle, but because of suspense. You can feel every inch of progress, every rope stretch, every board shift. It's nerve-wracking, in a way modern CGI-heavy thrillers rarely achieve. What makes Sorcerer even more tragic is its history. Released the same year as Star Wars, it was crushed at the box office. Audiences wanted escapism. This film offered despair, sweat, and existential dread, but time has been kind to it. Today, it's recognized as a brutal meditation on fate, guilt, and the illusion of second chances. There are no heroes here, just survivors. Temporarily. Streaming platforms rarely hold on to Sorcerer for long. It's too bleak, too intense, too uncompromising. If you've never seen it, this might be your last easy opportunity. Number 8. The Killing, 1956. Before the swagger, before the myth, before the legend. This is Stanley Kubrick proving very early on that he was operating on a completely different level. The Killing takes a simple premise. A racetrack robbery, but it tells the story like a puzzle being assembled in real time. Events overlap, perspectives shift, timelines fracture. You're constantly reevaluating what you've just seen. What's striking is how cold and precise the film feels. There's no glamour here, no romanticizing crime, just inevitability. Plans unravel not because of bad luck, but because human nature is unreliable. Sterling Hayden anchors the film with weary confidence. You believe this man has thought through every detail. And that's what makes the collapse so devastating when it comes. Not sudden, but slow and unavoidable. Kubrick's direction is already razor-sharp. Every shot feels intentional. Every camera movement has purpose. Even silence is used as a weapon. You can feel the tension tightening with every ticking second. The ending is famously brutal. Not violent, but existentially crushing. It's a reminder that control is an illusion, and chance doesn't care how smart you are. This film influenced generations of crime cinema, yet it still feels modern, lean, efficient, ruthless, because it's black and white, because it's older, because it doesn't shout. The Killing often slips quietly off streaming platforms. When it's gone, it takes a piece of film history with it. Number 7. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, 1962. This isn't just a Western. It's a funeral for the idea of the Western. John Ford uses this film to dismantle the myths he helped create. Instead of frontier heroics, we get memory, regret, and the uncomfortable truth behind legends. James Stewart plays a man returning to a town for a funeral, only to recount a past that doesn't align with the stories people believe. John Wayne stands as the embodiment of the Old West, strong, silent, already fading into history. The film asks a brutal question. Does the truth matter if the lie built the world we live in? Shot in black and white long after color had become standard, the choice feels intentional. This isn't nostalgia, it's mourning. The West is already gone, and the film knows it. The performances are restrained but devastating. No grand speeches, no easy resolutions, just the slow realization that progress is built on buried truths and forgotten people. The final line of the film is legendary for a reason. It doesn't celebrate myth, it accepts it with sadness. Streaming services don't like quiet, reflective films that question national myths. They come and go without ceremony. If Liberty Valance disappears, it won't make headlines, but it should. Number 6. Ace in the Hole, 1951. This film feels dangerous even now, maybe especially now. Ace in the Hole is Billy Wilder at his most cynical and fearless, a savage takedown of media exploitation that feels less like a classic film and more like a prediction. Kirk Douglas plays a disgraced journalist who stumbles upon a man trapped in a cave and realizes the story is worth more to him if the rescue takes longer. What follows is a slow, horrifying transformation of tragedy into entertainment. Crowds gather, vendors sell food, the media circus grows, and the man at the center of it all becomes less human with every passing hour. Douglas is electrifying. His performance is fast, sharp, cruel, and deeply unsettling. This is not an anti-hero you root for. This is a warning, a man who believes intelligence excuses cruelty, and that being first matters more than being right. Wilder refuses to soften anything. There's no moral cushion, no sentimental detour. The camera watches calmly as ambition corrodes every shred of decency. Even authority figures bend when attention and profit enter the room. What makes Ace in the Hole hit so hard today is how familiar it feels. The feeding frenzy, the manufactured outrage, the way suffering becomes content. Strip away the black and white cinematography, and you could drop this story straight into the modern media landscape. The film was hated on release. Too mean, too honest, too uncomfortable. It nearly ended careers, which tells you everything. Streaming platforms rarely hold on to movies this confrontational. When Ace in the Hole disappears, it won't be because it's outdated. It'll be because it still cuts too close. Number 5. The Wages of Fear, 1953. This is suspense reduced to its rawest form. 4 men, 2 trucks, 1 impossible mission, transporting unstable nitroglycerin across treacherous terrain where the slightest jolt means instant death. The Wages of Fear doesn't rush. It lingers. It forces you to sit with dread. Long stretches pass with almost no dialogue, just the sound of engines, creaking metal, and breath held too long. Director Henri-Georges Clouzot turns every obstacle into torture. A pothole, a rotting bridge, a sharp turn. Each one feels like a coin toss between survival and annihilation. What makes the film extraordinary is how it dismantles masculinity and courage. Bravado evaporates, confidence crumbles, fear becomes the only honest emotion left. These men aren't heroes. They're desperate, trapped by poverty and circumstance. The suspense is almost unbearable because it's grounded. No music cues telling you when to be afraid, no quick cuts, just time stretching thin as nerves snap. The final act is devastating in a way that feels cruel, inevitable, and profoundly human. Victory, when it comes, is hollow. Survival costs too much. This film inspired Sorcerer, but many argue it was never surpassed, and yet it drifts in and out of availability like a ghost. If The Wages of Fear leaves Tubi, don't assume it'll be easy to track down again. Films this uncompromising are never prioritized. Number 4. Paths of Glory, 1957. Few war films are this angry, and this controlled. Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory isn't about battles. It's about power. Specifically, how those far from danger make decisions that destroy the lives of those closest to it. Kirk Douglas plays a French officer ordered to lead an impossible assault during World War I. When the mission fails, as it was always going to, the generals demand scapegoats. Not justice, not truth, just bodies. The courtroom scenes are chilling, not because of shouting, but because of indifference. The verdict is predetermined. The trial is theater. Humanity is irrelevant. Kubrick's trench cinematography is legendary. The camera glides through mud, fear, and exhaustion like an unblinking witness. You feel the claustrophobia, the futility, the sense that death is random, but punishment is calculated. The film refuses patriotism, refuses comfort, refuses to tell you that sacrifice has meaning simply because someone in power says it does. The final scene is quietly devastating, a moment of fragile humanity that feels almost unbearable after everything that comes before it. This film was banned in multiple countries for decades. Not because it was inaccurate, but because it was honest. Streaming platforms don't advertise films that openly accuse authority of cruelty. When Paths of Glory disappears, it won't be an accident. Number 3. Sunset Boulevard, 1950. This film doesn't open like a movie. It opens like a confession from beyond the grave. Sunset Boulevard pulls you into Hollywood's dark mirror world, where dreams rot quietly behind closed gates, and fame never really lets go. It just waits for you to decay. From the very first moments, the tone is fatalistic, ironic, and cruelly honest about what the industry does to those who outlive their moment. Gloria Swanson's Norma Desmond is not a caricature. She's a warning, a silent-era star frozen in time, living inside a mansion filled with ghosts, old reels, and memories that refuse to fade. Her belief that the world still wants her isn't delusion, it's survival. And William Holden's struggling screenwriter knows exactly what he's trading when he steps inside her orbit. Youth for comfort, integrity for safety, time for decay. Billy Wilder directs this like a slow funeral march. No rush, no mercy. Every line drips with bitterness and clarity. Hollywood isn't cruel because it hates talent. It's cruel because it doesn't remember it. The final descent is legendary not because it's shocking, but because it feels inevitable. This isn't a fall, it's gravity. Sunset Boulevard disappears from streaming often because it cuts too close to the bone. It's not nostalgic, it's accusatory. And when it leaves, it takes one of cinema's sharpest self-portraits with it. Number 2. Double Indemnity, 1944. This is the blueprint. Every noir that followed owes something to Double Indemnity. The voiceover, the moral rot, the sense that fate is already sealed before the first bad decision is made. From the opening narration, you know this story ends badly. The tension comes from watching how willingly the characters walk toward their own ruin. Fred McMurray's insurance salesman isn't evil, he's bored. And boredom, Wilder suggests, is far more dangerous. Barbara Stanwyck's femme fatale doesn't need violence. She weaponizes suggestion, a look, a pause, an anklet. Every conversation feels like a contract written in smoke. What makes the film timeless is how procedural it is. Murder isn't glamorous. It's logistics, timing, paperwork, mistakes. And Edward G. Robinson's investigator slowly tightening the net isn't heroic. He's methodical. The system doesn't rage. It waits. The dialogue snaps like a loaded trap. Every line pulls you deeper into complicity. You don't just watch bad decisions, you understand them. That's what makes the ending hit so hard. Not justice, not redemption, just consequences. Streaming platforms rotate noir constantly, but Double Indemnity never stays long. When it vanishes, it takes the DNA of an entire genre with it. Number 1. The Third Man, 1949. This is not just one of the greatest films ever made. It's one of the most uneasy experiences cinema has to offer. The Third Man turns post-war Vienna into a moral labyrinth where right and wrong dissolve under rubble, shadows, and survival instincts. The city itself feels broken, suspicious, and exhausted. Joseph Cotten arrives chasing a friend and finds a ghost. Orson Welles' Harry Lime is introduced like a myth, and when he finally appears, it's one of the most iconic entrances in film history. Not triumphant, not heroic, just chilling. A man smiling in the dark because he knows exactly what he's done. Carol Reed's direction is masterful. Tilted angles, long shadows, empty streets, and that zither score, light, playful, and cruel, mocking every illusion of heroism. The film constantly asks whether loyalty matters more than morality, and whether survival excuses everything. The sewer chase is legendary, but it's the quiet moments that linger. Conversations about profit, about victims reduced to statistics, about how easy it is to justify evil when it benefits you. The Third Man doesn't resolve comfortably. It ends with distance, silence, consequence, and that final shot says more about post-war disillusionment than any speech ever could. When this film leaves streaming, something essential leaves with it. This is not background cinema. This is final chance cinema. These movies don't vanish because they're old. They vanish because they're sharp, honest, uncomfortable. And streaming libraries don't like reminders that great cinema doesn't age, it indicts. If even one of these films caught your eye, don't wait, because once they're gone, they're gone.